Coming at you live from the steam tunnels, broadcasted by Radio Free Massachusetts. It's the Steam Gentlemen's year-long special roundup, starring all your favorites. The Three of Clubs, himself, RaShaun Smith. The Star Child, Gregory Descents. And now here's your host, the Birdman, Joshua Fink. Oh yes, I just gave myself that intro. Can you stomach me now, RaShaun?
Listen, I support anyone going to third person for any reason. Anytime, any reason, I am here for it.
I'd like to tell you it's hard to do, and sometimes it's hard to do, but then again, I mean, isn't there just a part of everyone that just loves it, just going to third person? You know, RaShaun doesn't like that. You know, come on, it's who doesn't want to do that every once in a
while? If I'm going to third person, I'm gonna develop a different persona, and that would be Jimmy. Yeah,
of course, from Seinfeld.
Because Jimmy don't like that.
Jimmy don't like that. Exactly. That he showed us the way. Jimmy
showed us the way.
Yes, Jimmy was the shining beacon that freed us from our shackles of mediocrity and conformity, and not speaking of oneself in the third person, which is still, I mean, yeah, I don't know if anyone's ever really legit done it. I mean, it's always out there.
You got Jimmy, you got Jimmy, and Jimmy. So yeah,
Jimmy.
Yeah.
All right. Takes the podium. Jimmy took the podium tonight for sure.
You got Gator from the other guys.
Oh,
Gator don't take no shit.
Gator don't take no shit. That's right. Okay, had to reach back for that pop culture reference there.
Yeah, he kind of couldn't take any shit. I mean, he was running a stable of horse, but did Dolomite refer to himself in the third person? We're digressing. Dolomite referred to himself in a lot of different ways. He was, he did not limit his referrals, self-referrals.
Yeah, well, we're getting back into the chances I missed in the blaxploitation, little bit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if there's a fourth person reference, he probably found it.
I think I think that would be perfected by none other than Mr. Dolomite, who, as I say, I don't think I got into this in the blaxploitation episode, but fact of the matter is that I probably the most controversial, and yet same time, like, thinking about someone sitting down at a typewriter and typing this piece of dialogue out without even the hint of irony, when he looks at him square in the face and says, "While you were in the can, we put your bitches through karate school." And to mean that 100% honestly, to have actually put those words to paper. Wow, man, that's some three-dimensional chess writing right there. Let me just tell you, that's got everything going on so many levels there. But it is I, the Birdman. We're here. We're doing a very special episode today because somebody, don't want to name names, by the name of RaShaun Smith, is getting all bougie and he's jetting on off. He's jetting on off to Aruba, getting out of this cold ass town. God bless you, man. Get out of this cold ass town. We got 2 inches of snow or whatever coming in tomorrow. So
it is gonna be 50 something degrees for most of this week. I think you guys will be okay.
We'll be okay, but we've reached it. This is now March in New England. We've reached that stage where we are optimum surly. So right, we're just done with it.
I am quick to tell.
Oh, go. I just say Putin's invading, and the winter's not over. So we're just done with it. We're just like, fuck this shit, kid.
Well, speaking of which, I was going to bring up how we are unofficially sponsored by Stoli Vodka. That is Stoli, as in Stoli. We are not made in Russia, and we had to prove that point by changing our name to Stoli. Fun fact, it wasn't Stoli a week ago, but it is Stoli now, which is hilarious when you think about it, because, like, who the fuck was calling it by its full name? Because I guarantee you, no one, not even internally,
No.
they were calling it by their full name. So I'm pretty sure this switch was, way easier internally than externally.
But true story, to go with the Stoli, it dovetails nicely. No bullshit. Apparently they had to call some guy off, another dude, owner and proprietor of a French restaurant, because of the dish poutine. And be like, no, sir, it's French fries and gravy. It's not named after Putin. So, right. Stoli's not the only one out there struggling right now as it goes. Like, whoa. We just wanted to sound Russian. And in the case of Putin, it's like, motherfucker, I've been around way longer than this. Come on. It's French fries, gravies, and cheese curds. Fuck off. So,
which, the funny thing with poutine, since we're on that subject, I am one who believes poutine is highly overrated, but I'm also one who has stuck his head in many a basket of poutine while in Montreal, sober or drunk. So I can talk all the shit I want, but then I get up to Montreal and they're like, poutine. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, what took you so long? I am here. Give me some, please. I'm about to get some cheap alcohol, and I'm about to get fucking lit on some poutine. Hell yeah. But yeah, south of the Canadian border, I'm like, yeah, that shit is totally fucking overrated. And I would argue of all the brands that are pretty happy about today, and I don't say that lightly, but we are here to jest and have a little fun. It's probably Corona. Corona is probably like, oh God damn it, thank you. Because it's been a rough 3 years.
About fucking time we can move on.
And just there's a report out right now talking about how like a lot of, especially Americans, but probably a lot more of the world, once we really follow the product lines, a lot of these things that a lot of us grew up not under more lead poisoning than any sort of official wanted to acknowledge, but that it probably severely affected the mental capacity of a lot of people, like in the millions of people. So 2 things. 1, yeah, duh, what the fuck? Like, I remember, I am in my 40s. I remember when lead products were getting pulled off, and remembering everyone being like, oh shit, this too? Like, that's not something that should be said on that level of toxicity that needs to be removed from all products. And every single person is like, oh shit, this too? Like, it didn't matter what they were talking about. Everyone was pointing to something different. And it was always like, yeah, that had lead. So of course we all had fucking lead poisoning. But the sad truth is, when it comes to things like Stoli and Corona and Putin versus Putin, is that it is a sad marker of where human intelligence still currently is. And that, frankly, I don't know how far away we are from the moment where a Bible or a reference like that was created to literally educate millions of people. Like, I feel like we're regressing and not progressing. And there's a lot of probably chemical reasons for that. And frankly, I would argue it's the reason why, if there is intelligent life form that can travel galaxies and universes, that's going to take some intelligence and technology. They're probably going to skip talking to the species that still is proverbially throwing shit at the wall and being surprised that it got stuck. Not even the action. It's they're probably like, holy shit, they are still surprised that happened. How many times do they have to do that?
Certainly think I've said it before. Don't know if I've said it on air, but we are the planet that the aliens, roll up the windows and lock the doors, kids, right? That's what happens. We're going by Earth. Lock that shit up, roll it up. No direct eye contact. We're just going to keep moving past it. All right. The idea of all of the infinite planets and infinite galaxies that they're coming to say hi to us for whatever reason and then erase our memory. It's a hard sell. What can I tell you? Even a divine being I could probably buy into easier than that idea when it comes down to it. I'm like, minor point of interest, or what did Douglas Adams say? Mostly harmless, but it is in fact a very special episode here of the Steam Gentlemen. We, as in a couple of weeks from now, we will be celebrating our 1-year anniversary. We released our very first episode in the 3rd week. And as of today, officially, we had two left to go. And today we had 2 downloads. We have reached the 1,000 download mark. So that's kind of a big deal for a couple of guys who just, like to be stupid together. And that was really the premise of the entire show. Actually, brought to you by none other than Three of Clubs RaShaun here, who came up with this entire concept over a text thread, no less. So, you're welcome, people. You're welcome, Steam people. No,
I like
quite
to
honestly,
think of us, I like to think of us as more towards the intellectually dense in every word, every sense of the way dense could mean. That's really I think we were kind of landing no matter what.
The emphasis on the word dense
Yes.
is what I would say.
Yes.
We lean heavy on the dense for sure.
Very dense.
But it's been a fun year so far, but we really just wanted to stop by. So I wanted to catch RaShaun before he jets off, with his lovely wife, Sarah, our one wife, who is the loyal listener who will actually hear this. So hi, Sarah, we love you. Thank you so much for being one. Maybe you were that download that I believe that you were that download that put us over the top. I'm just gonna build that up in my head.
You're 1,000.
That's it. Number 1000. That's how it. But I wanted to stop in and let RaShaun lavish you fans with a little bit of love this week, just because we really appreciate it. And this has been a fun time, and in case you haven't noticed, it's been a little bit of a tricky last couple of years, and we thought we were gonna get a little respite, but now we're on just to the next chapter of the book. So good news is you can come here for a little escapism, a little crazy, a little emotional, intellectually dense humor and content week after week here with the Steam gentlemen. But want to let RaShaun just sort of lavish you with a little love. So sit back, relax, light some candles.
Oh, all right, cool. So I think I've already established that I will not read the book report before I have to make the book report or present the book report that I basically just made up in the hallway on the way over here. And the adult version was definitely my car ride home from the 9 to 5. Shout out to Dave Holmes. For you kids that are, let's say, under the age of 30, you probably don't even know what the hell I'm about to say this person is, but he was a VJ for MTV. Ask your parents. They used to play videos a lot.
Now,
also, fun fact, I had to explain to a couple of people today. Aerosmith's Janie Has a Gun was actually the reason why MTV had to stop playing any sort of gun reference video. So if it had guns in whatsoever, it had sounds, blah, 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 for like definitely that summer and maybe following into the next year. It took a little while. A lot of people like to blame it on, understandably, and fucked up because you're using stereotypes, but on gangster rap. But actually, fun fact, it was Aerosmith that kind of killed the gunplay for a little bit. There is a sad story that's attached to, I believe it was MTV head at the time and his daughter, which was probably the reason why it struck so damn close to home. But anyway, Dave Holmes does this awesome podcast on sudden impact, which is funny enough. And I promise you, listeners, we do not plan these things. It's just kind of the way our orbit has always worked around the three of us. And part of the reason why we've come to, inundating you guys with our thoughts. Also, because we have to save our marriages and we have to give our wives a break from listening to the inane bullshit that will come out of our mouth at any given time on any subject, normally sci-fi or something to that effect. So you can kind of feel where it's coming. But if you ever meet my wife, she'll tell you it will come at any fucking moment on any subject. So kind of like right now where I'm just going off. But anyway, Dave Holmes has this passion project on Sudden Impact, and that is a group that we were literally talking about several episodes on, when randomly out of my head I just remembered that the random white guys in Motown Philly video, who the fuck were they? Well, he does a 10-episode arc where he actually finds these guys, breaks it down, gives a whole backstory and all these connecting stories. And I have to say, it is 10 episodes of some of the most wholesome shit you're going to come across. I defy someone to not listen to all 10 of these episodes and not feel better, not only about the individuals involved in the group. I mean, those guys, I actually have so much more respect for those guys. I went into this ready to talk so much shit and to laugh at their expense and all these other things. I came out on the other end, big fans of them, hoping they have some comeback in whatever regard. I hope it goes back to Sudden Impacts. They had like 6 names. I didn't know that. And also, I am now firmly in the Dave Holmes camp. I am down for whatever the next thing he comes out with. I even hope that the little project that him and Margaret Cho they talked about and they weren't able to get released. I hope that shit gets released, man, because I'm behind you, brother. You are an absolute gem, and thank you for that shit. And the reason why I bring that up is because the reason why it's so wholesome is because it talks about really ultimately what these guys did, and frankly, what we should all be doing with our life is we should be shooting our shot. And hopefully in some creative way. And I would argue every single one of us has some sort of creative outlet. And a lot of times we're just scared to let it out, or we don't have the right network to make us feel like we can let it out. And I mourn for those individuals, and I pray, if I do have a prayer, because I'm going to say atheist, but damn sure ain't religious. So I do not believe in, sending people prayers. It doesn't do. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent, but the point being is, like, I really hope people, no matter who you are, you find something to let that fire inside of you be displayed and to share, because I guarantee you there's going to be someone else out there that's absolutely going to want to share with you and will probably enjoy what you have. So, if I can beg anyone to do anything outside of, listening to us and, telling a friend to tell a friend and rating us and all the good stuff, buy some t-shirts. Outside of that, I really hope that you find your creative outlets. And this is one of the things that I find absolutely, not going to cry, find absolutely so not only rewarding, but thankful for any person who's even come across our podcast and giving us 30 seconds of listen to a full download. Thank you. I do sometimes come across the comments whenever I get enough self esteem up, because I'm still not at that point where I'm ready to see the negative feedback, although I welcome all feedback, because all feedback is going to grow you if you're ready to take it. But that being said, I still am moved by comments like, what our podcast is starting to do is creating a bigger room for people to feel welcome and to come inside and join in the conversation, and to have fun with us and find all the weird, quirky things that we find or point out or, realize or notice, or want to talk about American Ninja and how for however reason it made to like 7 or 5 of them, and how it was during the period of time where the show that we had this white action hero who can obviously kick some ass, regardless of his background, be it a dancer or a gymnast or something. We're just going to throw in a couple Asian archetypes in there, and stereotypes, and we'll dumb them down so they can lose. Chuck Norris probably could have won a few of those fights, but outside of him, I mean, like, we got the Jeff Spiewak. So, like, I could keep going on this, but anyway, so I'm very happy that we were able to create this. I'm very thankful. I look forward to growing this, and more to the point, I'm very thankful for these individuals that allow me to get together with them and do something that I don't normally get to do. I do talk about how I bore the shit out of my wife every single day with something inane and random, and I will pontificate and rant for like half hour. She'll be like, "Hey, so do you want steak for dinner?" And then like 30 minutes later, after a full dissertation on the full fucking beauty of Time Bandits and how it evolved into, moving into these other sort of time travel movies, she's looking at me like, "Cool. So could you answer the fucking question I asked you about the steak 20 minutes ago?" So I'm so thankful that I have these guys to let me do this. And it reminds me of, this is where the only place my mind did go, and thinking of like When was the last time I was so thankful to have a platform where I can make such a fucking fool of myself? And how did no one stop me? And I'd like to take you back to 1993. We talked about how fucking weird the 90s were, people. I did bring up Sudden Impact just now. You need to look it up. That was so indicative of the 90s. The 90s are, I don't know if it was because we went through the 80s that the 90s made like less sense, or if the 80s made the 90s more sense. I don't know. The 90s were fucking wild, people. And this is what I mean. So everyone knows how conservative, which weirdly enough, because the 80s was nothing but cocaine and lead paint. But there was like, it was also the decade of the yuppie and the super conservative. And we had things like Nancy Reagan being an example of all sort of women. And believe me, the fashion actually followed, and you do not know weird shit until you see a woman show up out of nowhere in like a sport coat and like the shoulder pads that made them look like they're ready to take down buckets. But then like this weird sort of ruffle thing that went around the neck, kind of like they're wearing like some Renaissance version of the funnel. Like the 80s were fucking weird for a lot of reasons, but it was ultra conservative. That didn't necessarily disappear coming into the 90s. I'm giving you this because now, fast forward to 1993, you have a young, I'm not going to say the age, but I said I'm in my 40s, so you figure it out. And I'm about to give you a reference if you understand the culture. You got a young RaShaun at one of his best friends' bat mitzvah. Shout out to Lori Abrams. God bless her parents. They let me say Abrahams all the goddamn time. They didn't say shit. And I also found out that her dad was also in the CIA, which that was one of those things like, hey, Lori, could you tell us before we broke all those fucking laws in your house? Could you have said that like maybe before we fucking did all the dumb shit that we did growing up? Lori is like literally a sister of mine. We have been friends since 5th grade. I'm at her bat mitzvah amongst like 100 other kids. By the way, I grew up in a time where by the time I hit 30, it took that many years for me to go through as many weddings and funerals and any other christenings, any other religious thing that still matched the number of bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs I went through in middle school. But I'm at one of the best ones because it's one of my best friends. Shout out to the Abrams. My girl Lori. She had a stage at her bat mitzvah. I forgot where we were. I think we're at Framingham State College. Anyway, and it is a classic sort of stage situation. So all the parents are sitting where people are normally sitting. They cleared out and they had tables and stuff like that. And they had a big space for the dance floor. And then the stage as well. They had the DJ, had to be a DJ. It wasn't Paul Rudd. We weren't that lucky, but it was, your classic DJ. We're going to play, all the games. Dr. Pepper, what up? But I am killing Josh right now. I'm bringing him back to so many different things. But so it got to the point where, it's like long in the tooth. If you've gone to any of these things, these are like 6-hour events. So by around 4th hour, the parents are hitting just right amount of alcohol that they stop really giving a shit about what you're doing. And the kids have snuck just enough alcohol to really kicking into the gear. So we are all on fucking 10, but the parents weren't really paying attention, but they were kind of. So we decided that we're going to do a little talent show. So why am I telling you all this? Is because for some fucking reason in 1993, they let this little chubby kid with, I did have hair back then, a flat top, get up there with like 18 other dudes and fucking mouth and mimic the words to H-Town knocking the boots. Like, it blows my mind to this age how that happened and what the fuck was going through their head. And some of them were clapping. Like, we went on a look. I put on a show. I had just watched like the 5 Heartbeats for like the 20th time. I was full on ready to be Eddie Kane. Like, you can't hang with Eddie Kane RaShaun version. I was bringing, and then like because of that, I even somehow got my man Josh Cohen. Rest in peace, my man. We miss you still. I had my man Josh Cohen. Somehow we mentally, telepathically figured out like, hey, let's do the sort of like the battling lead singer of a group thing. Like, let's get that going. So like he would take a verse and I would push on away and I would really start to kick it up a gear. Like, I am gyrating my hips, people. I am gyrating my hips to like 30 sets of parents like just like here you go. You can check out these 13-year-old. Yeah, there it is. That's age. You can check out the 13-year-old little marbles I'm shooting your way. Enjoy. And my man Josh is like pushing me out of the way to like hump the ground. I'm pretty sure he went into like a really sexy version of the fucking inchworm to the point where I think he just straight up humped the ground. And like we knocking the boots, people. Listen to that song if you don't understand where I'm coming from and why that's so mind blowing. And again, I bring all this up because it was a platform for me to do what I normally do, and which is dumb, idiotic shit. This is what I sound like and do and act like in the shadows. And I'm just bringing it forward. And I really appreciate, like those parents in 1993, you guys let me do it.
Well, firstly, let me just say that when it comes to white people in martial arts movies, the peak and the absolute standard is Jim Kata. Okay. About the gymnast who combines martial arts and has
I see
to
you've
go
been watching my
win,
man Red Eye reviews
and has to go and win this martial arts tournament as such, which is really just like a running of the gauntlet to get some information for the. Oh no, that they need to get a treaty together for the CIA.
But they do have
somehow there's a pommel horse in the middle of all this that allows him to do his pommel horse.
By the way, people, what he's leaving out is in this moment, the main character is fighting his way through, I'm pretty sure, zombie villagers. That is not very explained. It's a
town of quote unquote crazies.
Yeah. No, they're zombies because like the dude kills a few of them. They just keep going. There's also parallel bars randomly in the city.
No, I think
And shout out to the ninjas that just show up randomly and shoot side characters. Like, all right, your contract's over. You're only supposed to get 10 minutes.
So we got that. To our multitude of Jewish listeners, who did, had to go look at, or non-Jewish listeners, excuse me, who had to go look it up. Yes, indeed, bat mitzvahs, bar mitzvahs take place when you're 13. So they could have figured that out as far as the age. I hope.
Like I said, I had a cultural reference that basically put me in the age, but after I got going and remembered again my 13-year-old self gyrating towards all of these different parents. I mean, there are kids in front of me, sure, but like, I just think like my 40-year-old self right now would be like, no fucking way. You need to get this little bastard off the damn stage right now. Right now.
Well,
Chris Pratt gift right now.
Did just want to say thank you, and I agree with you. Thank you very much because I really wanted to do this. I haven't had, I was at a point in my life I hadn't had a creative outlet really like this in many years, really going all the way back to college. And then, sort of buried that creative urge for a long time, got in the working world and did stuff that I still found creative and fun, but nothing quite like this. And that sort of, opening things up to the podcast world, really gave us a chance to do that. So I thank you. And I thank the listeners. We got to, hey, Bubba. But I am so grateful to have the opportunity to do this here with you again, and with you and with Greg, and just to have that opportunity. We really wanted to take a moment to thank our God bless them fan base out there, and especially before we sent you off to those warm climes where you're gonna go, drink even a little bit more than you are right now, and really just get some nice warm sunshine going on, and just having a good old time. Getting away from dreary Massachusetts, of course. But thank you so much for coming out today. I really do appreciate it. I really do appreciate you, of course, giving us your three of clubs, being your three of clubsness, just coming on in there. Because I knew you would have something special for us and something special for our listeners. We're gonna, after a little later on this week, I'm gonna shoot on over to a separate part of the steam tunnels and interview Greg in kind of a similar fashion. See what we come up with there. But we really, appreciate you taking this ride with us. We really do ask if you can, if you know that person with that quirky sense of humor, if you were that kid who got up and sung that, lip sync to that heinously inappropriate song back in the 90s or the 80s, exactly. If you were that 13-year-old knocking the boots, then that's the case. I got my youngest has come up to join us. This is Gabriel. You want to say hi to the podcast, bro?
Hi.
Hi. 8-year-old. That was
Stop squeezing.
Oh, because you're just too cute to squeeze. That's the 8-year-old shout out.
Child.
I'm not adorable. I'm hideous.
Who has his father's sense of humor. God bless him. So, all right, RaShaun, thank you so much, man, for just taking it. I'm glad we could wrangle you out together. When do you fly out officially?
Thursday morning.
Thursday morning. Well,
Thursday morning, and my wife is going for wife of the year for like the 10th year running because she asked me if I wanted to do the podcast when I was there.
Oh wow! Well, that is some above and beyond stuff. So thank you, Sarah. Definitely our number one fan for sure.
Thank you to the Finks for letting you guys borrow him.
All
Mr.
right.
Josh.
Well, I gotta. Bye. We're gonna get off to bedtime now, and then I'm gonna go shoot down to the other part of the steam tunnels. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye.
Later, brother. Bye.
And we're back here in our very special year, or close to year anniversary, 1,000 download extravaganza, as I'm taking the time to interview the Steam gentleman one-on-one here. It's me, the Birdman, back after that very, very short break that you just listened to. Here again with our very own star child, Mr. Greg Descents here. It's a couple days later. How are we doing today, Greg?
Loving life, man. Loving life. We're loving this platform. I think it's fun.
I think, well, nothing better than the wild, wild west of the podcast world. A very important update for our fans, ourselves. Because right now RaShaun and Sarah are sitting on a beach in Aruba, and it's RaShaun's birthday as we record this. So happy birthday, RaShaun, to the 3 of Clubs. Hope you have a very 3 of Clubs birthday. Whatever that entails.
None of our business.
Who knows what's happening? Who knows what'll happen? But while in between recording of the show, my wife walked in, and she's a professor. I won't say where, just to keep some anonymity here, but she's a professor, and she was making an example to her students, talking about, it's like Jean-Luc Picard. And then she got nothing but blank stares after that. It's, and then she's like, no, the actor who plays Jean-Luc Picard, come on, you guys, nothing but blank stares coming back at her. And I'm just looking at my wife and I'm saying, you get it, honey. I'm like, this is the podcast. This is the very concept. Don't you understand? You made a pop culture reference. And this generation of youngsters had no idea about something they goddamn well should have. Come on.
I am a little surprised because, that intellectual group, usually they know about some nerd shit, but yeah, it's generational.
Honestly, I'm very lucky that some of the younger trainers that I work with at work, a couple of them are hardcore Star Wars fans, even though they are Gen Z and millennials or whatever, whatever. They're Gen Z, I guess, or millennials. I can't tell you.
Yeah, something.
I can't tell them apart. They all look alike to me. But they do get the Star Wars references, because there was a time I once looked at some kids and went, you don't need to see my identification, and they had no idea what the fuck I was talking about. And I'm like, your parents have failed you.
I mean, nerd culture is definitely a thing now. I mean, I think we've touched on that before, because, like when we were younger, when we were kids, if you were a nerd, you were not the cute guy. You were not the good looking offbeat one. All right. Like, exactly. Like you were a nerd. You were, I think Stranger Things probably does it the best, but still, you were never the cool kid.
Stranger Things, my favorite line in the whole thing is when the older brother, who's actually quite nice to them, comes down in the basement after they've gotten the younger brother back in the first season. and he just says, "What is that smell?" It's just like, as the kid who was in that room and somehow went nose deaf, as they would say in Ocean's 13, you know, there's nothing quite like the stench of unwashed prepubescent boys who've been sitting in one spot for 18 hours straight in a marathon of Dungeons and Dragons. I think honestly you could use it to pacify. If you could bottle it and fire it into crowds, you could pacify most protests in utter minutes. Just, you could, you know, I'm sure
you could end
outlawed.
You could end the rise of the nerd, because just tell kids, like, you're gonna smell like this if you become a nerd.
Yeah, you have to bottle that stuff. But I guess, you know, that's kind of what we try and do here on the Steam Gentlemen. We try and bottle up our nerddom into, you know, ode to nerd, you know. But yeah, just I wanted to get a chance since we're, you know, in a different kind of recording spot, and the fact that we have been doing this a year, which is pretty amazing to myself. And I'm truly happy. I'm truly touched and happy to have been able to talk you guys into this, and to be able to have this outlet and this expression nowadays of something that I hadn't had for years, and just, you know, really try and, you know, put this particular spin on our own reality. The fact that, you know, in the end, in our own weird little way, the nerds ended up mattering something to our society, that our point of view is here, and damn it, we're here. We want to let our freak flag fly, and we want to express our point of view. But I just kind of wanted to check in with you, get to hear your take on it, where we're at and where we hope to go.
Oh, for me personally, I think I'm going to fall back on what is quite possibly the best satire of American pop nerd culture today, and that's the Matrix Resurrections. I think it is. It hit. Once you watch it, you got to watch it again, you know, and after you watch it again, and you totally, you know, immerse yourself in the fact that this is completely a satire. It's entirely a satire, and I will fight anybody who disagrees. Like, it is a fucking satire, and it is incredible. It hits so many points about media and, you know, the rise of content and content for content's sake, and the death of stories, you know, because stories have to have an end. You know, you can't just keep, you know, bringing back all of the, because, you know, they're all just IPs now. Everyone just calling them IPs, because really that's all they are, and you're just resurrecting them for the sake of resurrecting them, and you ruin the story. And so, you know, I've talked about, you know, how Star Wars, you know, like I said, you know, Salacious Crumb is probably going to get a series, because they're going to milk that shit for every Bib Fortuna.
I just want the next Max Rebo album. That's all I want. I want that to
exactly.
That's all, like, I'm saying.
All of that shit, like they're going to milk it for everything. And the thing is, you kill stories. Like, you can't have an end, you know, or you can't have, you know, a character with a real history, because you never know if you're going to have to bring them back or retcon them or anything like that. I think comic books are definitely one of the worst when it comes to that, because you know, like, I don't know, every comic book character has died like 20 times. Like, everyone, you know, have been brought back from the dead, or, you know, like, this totally, you know, weak character is destroyed, like, you know, Galactus. You know, I honestly believe Galactus just exists just to show how powerful someone else is, because he's always getting his ass kicked. You know, and I feel like the Matrix, it touches on that, because it's basically throwing in the towel and saying, you know what, to a certain degree, I'm giving up on the fans too. I'm giving up on the fans. That's why it never really does a good job of explaining anything. It's like, all right, you know, Neo and Trinity are back from the dead because reasons. And it turns out,
because that's what you wanted, apparently.
Yeah, because that's what you wanted. Yeah. Like, don't act like you want a real fucking explanation. There is no real fucking explanation. It doesn't. I ended the story where I ended it, because that's where the story ends, because, you know, but you want them back. So here you go. they're back, and when they touch, they have superpowers because reasons. And, like all of this stuff is also back because it needed to be back contractually, and we're just gonna say,
except for Lawrence Fishburne, apparently, like that was a contract too far.
Lawrence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving should be thanking the Wachowskis for not letting them be in that goddamn movie. Thank you for not calling us in on that one. You are the best. Love you guys. But that's exactly it, like the point that she's trying to make, and she goes through every layer, by the way, from the corporation, from the corporation that wants it, calling it a game, from the fans who don't give a shit, to the people who've been obsessed with it, the people who think they're just so the new crew that goes into the Matrix is just so hilarious. And that's another reason why I knew it was a parody, because it's like they look like a parody of the first crew. Like they look like it's like a joke. Like they look hilarious. And just the whole thing from top to bottom, and the fact that using footage from the first one. Why? Because you want your nostalgia. Shut up. You want your nostalgia, so you're going to take it, and you don't really want a good explanation, because if you really wanted a good story, you would not want this movie. Right. But you're going to go see it. So she kind of craps on the fans as well. Twist it around. Spider-Man. What was it called? The last Spider-Man movie to come out.
No Way Home.
Spider-Man No Way Home. Another movie where if you wanted to call it a parody, you could call it a parody. And if you wanted to call it satire, absolutely. Because it checks off every box that the Matrix movie is also talking about. Time heals all wounds. People did not like most of those other Spider-Man movies, but they were just, nostalgia. We're so excited to see these Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire that we just are. We're borrowing from something that was more successful, the Spider-Verse, because that's what you want, because money. And it just, exactly. And the story, fucking stupid. It's just stupid. Like, what kind of bumbling fucking wizard is going to split the entire universe because a teenager is having a hard time? Like, do that.
A teenager was suffering from a moment of indecision. Right. That's really what caused the whole thing. Apoplexy.
Oh, what's what? You can't handle being a celebrity? Oh, well, let me put the cosmos in danger and solve that for you. But that's exactly the point. You don't care. Like, we're going to throw some nostalgia at you. We're going to throw some, heartstrings at you, and you're just going to love it. And, money is going to happen. So I love the fact that those movies, and, it could be same thing for anything on streaming services, looking at you, Disney, the fact that I think that has said everything that needs to be said about pop culture right now. Like the nerd has been packaged. And we want to say the nerd has been packaged because I don't know, started eating less dairy or something. Like, I don't know why it is. But, like we just, we got sexy or something. It's like, no, it's been packaged. It's been packaged. Corporations have taken it. They have packaged it, and they are writing it out for every penny it can be written out for. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, because it means that we get more of our stuff. But this kind of tone that the conversation about popular culture has taken in the last 10 years or so, this explains it. All the remake fatigue and all the questions of representation and all the false representation and just the pandering and nostalgia and retconning and just ruining storytelling to a certain degree. Like, that underlines everything that anyone likes about these IPs, but content.
Content IP.
The content and IPs. And I just feel like The Matrix, hands down, one of my favorite satires. I think it absolutely nailed it. The Matrix Revolution.
Resurrection.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, Resurrection. I think it hits on it. It's up there with, like, Doctor Strangelove and Bamboozled. I think it's an absolutely brilliant satire.
I mean, how could you not be thinking about Doctor Strangelove at this time? And for our younger listeners, please go watch that movie. It may be a little hard to watch right now, but it's important if you want to understand true satire and truly reaching the point where you're having to deal with your existential dread of annihilation. And the only thing you can do is laugh. Perfect film for it,
I'd say that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I think you're having a lot of fun today because the Three of Clubs isn't gonna come in at you, till after maybe he listens to this episode, but probably not because he's gonna be on vacation. This is Greg Unbound, running wild and free without any repercussions.
Speaking for all Black people.
All Black, all nerds, all of everything, just
speaking
in a monolithic tone. I would love to disagree with you, but when I hadn't even thought of the parody point, but when you point out the new crew, I'm like, my God, he's right. This is what the Comic-Con, this is a group from Comic-Con if they could actually go into the Matrix, right?
Exactly.
This is exactly what would happen. They'd have their female nerd, they'd have their Black nerd, they'd have whoever they needed to make it look right, but it wouldn't click. It would be slightly off-brand, it's like or slightly quirky anyway.
My favorite thing was when they had the new thing where random people would just like jump out the window and would suddenly be taken over and then just like jump out the window.
Yes, that's right. They just
because one that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. But the point is that, like the mindlessness of just throwing yourself at the new thing that's coming out because the studio is hyping it. Yeah, that's exactly what it basically is. And it just hit perfectly on so many levels.
It's kind of dark though, because they're killing real people when they're doing that though, remember? Because they're all the batteries that are plugged in.
That's fine. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Like I said, it's a send up of the fans too. And don't get me wrong.
Yes.
Part of dystopia is satirical. Part of dystopia, it's looking at something now and saying, this is how it can go absolutely, insane or haywire in the future. And it's a big part of it,
or in our case, you can just open your window and take a look outside.
Yeah, exactly.
We're getting one step closer each day. So.
Yeah. So for that reason alone, you want to say this definitely is a brilliant dystopian satire, and it's a dystopian satire that deconstructs not just current media but the original media itself, and how the Matrix was received and how it was kind of a fail. Like apparently how a lot of people really missed the fucking mark on it. It hits on that too. So that movie, I know it bombed. I know it didn't do very well, but for me, one of the best satires ever made. It's up there with Jojo Rabbit.
That's some esteemed company, and definitely something we can do a dive into on that JoJo alone. But I think I gotta go to the Crow on this one, where I think, to sum it all up, to wrap it all up from our pop culture thought of the week, which is, man has an idea. The idea becomes an institution. And that's really right. That speech he gives about they're making Devil's Night greeting cards now. that's really it, right? The Crow never got a chance to become that because why? Because the main actor got killed on the set, right? Maybe that wasn't the curse. Who knows? But it really was pretty wild in the sense of that it described where we're at in pop culture to a certain extent, well ahead of its time. And the very idea of even becoming, so enamored and so retreading your own once great idea that somehow you're trying to figure out, I want to shake the heavens again. But even Lana, I think, didn't want to do that. And my favorite tongue-in-cheek moment in that film is when they just outright say, our parent company, Warner Brothers, is going to make this with or without you.
Without you.
All that was missing was like that actor turning and looking directly into the camera and raising his eyebrows right after that.
Or just like Lana Wachowski walking by in the background and just like looking at the camera, kind of a Hitchcockian thing where she's like,
exactly, two big thumbs up, like yeah, this is what's happening. They were gonna do it without me, so I figured I might as well at least give it whatever best shake I could. But well,
because that's my point. Like, in a sense, she's taking the piss out of the fans too, because she's taking a shot at the fans too, because fans, you want to see this shit, so it's partially your fault too. But she also did that in the first film a number of times. When Smith was saying, we tried a perfect utopia and it was a disaster. Like, you guys just could not acclimate to a perfect world because you don't really want one. Or just the suggestion that anyone at any time can be an agent because any person can turn on you because of their reasons.
Well, she's ended up being consistent, right? She really knows the consistency of her worldview in those films. Many people have tried to dissect it and add their own value to it, which is the nature of art. Let's face it. I'm talking to an artist, and that happens. I mean, you can't have art without that, to that extent, without the viewers dissection and adding their own 2 cents worth. But her as an artist, she's maintained her consistency. So I think that's safe to say in her own creation. So that's impressive. There's a lot to be said for that. And actually, you've given me some fodder to think about it, because I, of course, tried to watch it as a real Matrix movie. And I think I do have to go back now and watch it as the parody. And I think you make some interesting points. And certainly a lot of tongue-in-cheek nods to the fans in and of itself, while
because there's a fearlessness there. There's a fearlessness, and it's the only way to explain why that movie is such a fucking mess. It's the only way. It's like, I'm watching it and I was like, this movie is a mess. Like, it's just all over the place. Like, it's just dumb. And I think like that's a big part of what she was trying to say also. Like, like, you guys, you just want more and more content. They just want more and more content out of us. So, here's some schlock, knock yourself out. Here's a, fucking barbecue burger with bacon and onion rings on top and barbecue sauce. Here, knock yourself out. Some
angry Matrix burger.
Yeah, it's a Matrix burger, ultimate Matrix burger.
Ultimate, yes, an angry Matrix burger.
Here you go.
Well, Greg, I do appreciate you being able to come out, and this is why I love this, right? Because I got to hear a take that I wasn't even, didn't even know was coming today. Love it, and I really like, this is what we do, right? This is trying to make our reality fit pop culture fit our reality, and what is it telling us, and what are we telling it? And that's the reason for this show. That's the reason for our little creative outlet. And
that was one thing I wanted to push. I've been dropping it here and there because touching on the content issue and liking content, and it's like, no, I absolutely give everything a chance. Like, I try to forget the old thing, we talked about it with Masters of the Universe, we try, and I try to forget the old thing and just enjoy what I'm looking at. And because of that, it also means you can enjoy something for a totally different reason. And that's what ended up happening with this. Like, I was just watching it and I was just blown away by the eloquence that she was ripping into all of this bullshit. And it's just something that needed to be said right now. It's something that needed to be said, because I don't know, DC Comics, they're going to retcon everything. They're currently retconning all of Star Trek. Like they're gonna, like they don't care. It's all just content and IPs. So I think right now that it needed to be said. And I thought it was brilliant.
They killed Superman. I mean, there's nothing more to be said when it comes to retcon and bringing people back. You killed Superman.
You killed Superman.
Superman.
Right.
Okay. There's no more frontier. There's nothing, there's nothing new. There's absolutely nothing new. And your take though reminds me that one day we're going to have to get into my super unpopular take of why I actually liked Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull in much the same way that you're talking about the Matrix. So
I also liked Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull
in much in the same way. But
yeah. What did you
save
think
it for another episode? But
what
when
did you
say
think
it
you
out
were
loud,
watching all this time?
Right. What do you say out loud? A lot of it is because of my personal worship of Lucas. Like I know what he was doing here. Like you see, but well, we thank you for dropping by today and giving us some of that content. Thank you so much. Because we need the content, Greg. We always, we need the content. The people need the content. We need the content. Everyone needs the content. Don't pretend like you don't love the content. We're here to give you the content. We are here to keep things rolling along. But can we ask you, ever so kindly, ever so please head on over to Apple Podcasts, to iTunes, to Spotify, to wherever you get your content. Rate and review us. Help people let us know that we're out here. We're screaming into the void. This is our creative outlet and we love it. And it's really important to us because, really when you think about how small we are in the span of the universe and just our true insignificance, and then add on to it that there could be infinite universes on top of that. In my sort of Rick and Morty state right now. Yeah, this is what we got. So,
some Rick and Morty. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, we're going to have to just hold on to it all the tighter and just kind of keep trying to do it because we like it and it's fun. So that's all we got. And why not? There's no better reason to do it than that.
Absolutely. And don't forget that the multiverse also destroys storytelling because you basically ruined consequence.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Right. You have infinite lives.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another thing she touched on it's a brilliant movie. Anyway.
Yes. I love it. Well, thank you for coming out. Thanks for, thanks everyone listening for sticking with us for a year. Shout outs to some of our super fans out there. We know you're out there. Burnett, thank you. Kerry, thank you for getting us on the international listens, for listening to us when you were in India. And I can see on the downloads where they get downloaded to. So you got us to India. Thank you so much before coming back home. Rebecca, thank you for believing in us. And I really hope we can put together a live show in the next year, as we seem to kind of be getting out of the Zoom age, so barring full-fledged World War III, I'm hoping that we get some live events going on out there. We get some things going. So to both my esteemed gentlemen, thank you, actually to both of you, to Greg and RaShaun, thanks for making this little dream a reality, because, I sort of fell in love with this medium. Quite surprisingly, I followed another podcaster. His name is Dan Cummins. He has several shows. One called Time Suck that really just talks to all of my own separate nerd interests outside of film and pop culture in that regard. Some true crime and some other things like that. But I somehow got this ridiculous crackpot idea. Well, maybe I could do this, and then really wanted to do it with my friends. So that's why I'm really so extremely grateful and get the chance to hang out with two of my friends and talk bullshit, talk something of no consequence, but yet we still view it with the weight and all the gravitas of the consequence, which just makes it fun, and gives it some import in our lives. So We thank you so much for stopping by. But in the meantime, I'm going to wrap up this very special Steam Gentleman special, year-long special, 1,000 download special, and tell you to keep your heat up and keep your head of steam on.